another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past broadcasts are podcasts. You can find them at ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your email questions and comments, dj@artistfirst.com. Here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, Z-Man, and I am Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
And I am not what I think.
True.
Yes, but am I what you think?
That's a whole nother show.
It's a whole nother show. I'd like to think that I am who I think I am. And the rabbit hole just gets deeper.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's turtles. Turtles all the way down.
Yeah. That's a whole nother show. Or you are what other people think you are.
We should probably, one of these days, we should explain the turtles all the way down reference.
Okay.
But not tonight. Tonight we're talking about, actually this is a part 2 show. This is a part 2. We had a show on this topic, and it's a big one, back in August of this year. And that show was basically, you are not who you think you are. And really the thrust of the show and the thrust of this one will be that, in that one we concentrate on the fact that if your thoughts, the thoughts that are in your head, that we all have the voice in our head, is constantly speaking. In fact, if you become aware of the voice in your head, you'll realize that it's not only it's a chatterbox, but it just won't let you alone. The only time it ever shuts up is when you go on completely unconscious. But the voice in your head, what we said in that previous show was, well, who is listening? Who's listening? Because the thoughts are not things that listen. Thoughts don't listen. Thoughts just speak. And in fact, we talked a little bit about the fact that people can literally have an argument of their thoughts talking to each other. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, but I couldn't help myself. And going back and forth within your own mind, where you are both, the accuser and the accused and the judge and the jury, all together, all rolled into one. And so that was that show. And this one, though, it's going to be a little bit of a different focus because this came up again today, and we thought, well, it's such a big topic. Let's go back. So we have a nice quote which we can read. It. We don't have it attributed to anybody, but you want to start with that?
Sure, we can do that.
I think that's a good idea.
All righty. Realize that you are not the thinker. Rather, you are being thought. Thinking creates a mental image of you that you mistakenly believe to be true. You then self-identify with this false self-image and attach all of your emotions onto it. So this was anonymous?
It was anonymous. But, I think the first statement here gives people pause. It seems like a conundrum, or it seems like a contradiction in terms.
Mm.
Because I think when you speak it, it's a little bit more difficult to see that than in the quote, or rather in the first sentence of the quote, when you say realize that you, and you is in, I'll do air quotes. It's in quotes, that you. And what they're talking about here is the persona, okay? The you who you think you are. The true you is not the thinker. The true you, the you that you think you are, is being thought. And it's a weird way of saying it, but what the crux of that statement means is that there's a persona constructed by thoughts that you have taken in and turned into a thing, an entity that you call you or I, or you identify with. I am this, I am that. And it can be very simple and subtle in the beginning, And in fact, sometimes as a child, you're handed this, you are this, you are that, you should be this, you should be that. Don't you want to be a good boy? Don't you want to be a good girl? And you begin to internalize this and take these thoughts, which the first you are not the thinker, the first you is the being within which, we have to agree on this one thing, this is important, within which thought occurs. And when it says the second sentence, it says, rather, you are being thought. The second you, and that's the problem with English, is that we have one word for these very disparate things. The second you is a creation. It's a simulacrum. It's an entity that is being thought. It's actually being brought into being by this constant voice, which maybe started from the outside, but which you've internalized and now is constantly talking. And what is it doing? It's trying to tell you that you exist. And that the you it's trying to tell is the you that listens, the big being you, the actual you. And the you it's trying to keep inflated is the you that you think you are. And then this is the problem with this whole thing, and why you need 2 shows and maybe more. It's very circular, and it seems like a contradiction. It's difficult to use English for this. We have to maybe tease this apart a little bit into who the yous are and the I's are in this whole sentence. The first one is the hard one.
Okay. To realize that you was the I am, which is your consciousness. Your consciousness is not the thinker. Rather, the you that is being described are being thought. In other words, it's a construct. You explore what you think you are, and you put together an image of who you think you are. I am
a winner.
I am female. I am male. I am loud. I am
smart.
And you take all these pieces and you look at it and say, okay, I'm trying to figure out who I am. I'm putting that all in my I am box. I'm smart. I'm female. And you start throwing stuff in, making a list
mm-hmm.
of things you believe you are. But those are all almost like clothing that you put on the outside of your form.
Like veils.
You think, okay, I think I'm this, I think I'm that. But who you are on the inside doesn't even come close to this piece that you thought you are. Reminds me of those, what are those crabs that they walk along and they find a piece of shell and they take it and they glue it to their back. And as they walk along, they basically, if they feel threatened, they try to camouflage themselves as a pile of shells.
That's a very interesting analogy. I like that. But even prior to that, when you said, the pieces that you gather and basically try to describe the you entity, you build you build the little you. And it's interesting when, if you want to get somebody upset, you contradict a piece that they're a favorite piece of theirs. You're not that.
Right.
You say, you're not this, You're not smart. Oh, and to the extent that it pierces or rips or injures one of these veils, you get a big blast of emotion back. You get a big blast of anger back, because these are like Legos or like Lincoln Logs, if anyone knows what those things are. And when you take out a log or you take out a Lego, the structure starts to sag, maybe even starts to collapse. And people, if you've built this simulacrum and you've kind of put a piece of you in there and very much identified with yourself with this, it feels as though you're being attacked and threatened at an existential level. You feel like somebody's attacking you and trying to kill you. That's the reaction you get when you contradict somebody's very carefully cultivated you, the you that they're building in their head.
Right, because they're taking it personally.
Okay? And let's stop there just for a second. Taking it personally. You've heard people say that. You've heard people say, don't take it personally. And people who you obviously know are taking something personally. And sometimes it's to laugh. You say, well, gee, they shouldn't be so upset about it. It's just a little thing. But why are they? You see, exploring why are they upset? Because that little thing is maybe a crucial piece, near the base of this thing that they've created that they think is them. And when you knock that chunk out or that chink out, everything starts to sag, and all of a sudden it looks as though this wonderful thing that they thought they had created is somehow broken, and they react with a lot of upset, a lot of anger. You can get everything from tremendous tears to this. I'm so ashamed, or I'm very angry. You get this gigantic blast of emotion because you've there's another expression, Margaret. You've hit a nerve, right? And for some people, the same exact statement means almost nothing, because you're not hitting the entity in the same way, or if they're very lucky, they don't have the entity, but it's not the same entity in there.
I've wondered about this. Why such a reaction? All right, because most people do not walk this road dispassionately. Not saying that you must be dispassionate about it, but what I am saying is the adventure of finding out who you are is linked with the experiences around you. So there is within the experience an energy of the experience. So when you discover that suddenly you are strong, okay, and you've put that into that box of I am strong, then someone comes by and says, oh, you're not strong. And the reaction is, what do you mean? I've discovered that I am strong. And then you can bring out from that box all the experiences that validated the fact that you are strong.
Very good point.
Okay. And that is an experience. It's an emotional charge that gets rolled up into the quality of strong and put into the box. So the minute you contradict that, saying, well, no, you're not, it pops up and suddenly there's all these reasons of why you are strong. Okay. But the interesting thing is people identify it as who they are, as opposed to a quality that they have. And that's the difference.
And there's two great things about that. I want to start with the list, because you're absolutely right. When somebody contradicts something which you've carefully constructed, the emotional charge flies up. And you're right. You get a whole litany. It maybe that you don't say it all at once, but it's all pops into your head. All the thoughts. what do you mean? And then you go through, I did this, and it's all there. It all comes back in vivid Technicolor. Because those experiences or those identifications haven't just been lived or happened. They've been carefully chosen to fit into a slot, into a narrative, into a thing that you're building. And so when that thing is attacked, you have everything right there. You have, look, it's all right here. I have it all together. And then, I missed I've lost the second part of the last part of your statement, which was also good.
Oh, you're talking about...
Have we both lost it?
Well, yes.
It's okay. But I think it really comes down to that this thing that you've constructed and the emotional charge that is associated with it have become something which now is essential to who you think you are.
Well, it's the difference between who you are and the quality that you have.
That's exactly it. That's what it was. The qualities, you said I am strong. As a quality, it's a truism. Maybe at this point in time, let's just give it an absolute. I'm the strongest person in the world in this exact instant. Maybe it's true. Maybe I literally am the strongest person in the world. But rather than just say, in the moment of now, this particular instant, the strongest person in the world happened to be me. But then it's not. But thought doesn't work that way. Thought takes that and identifies it and says, I am the strongest person in the world forever. Or as you said, once you've built it and put an emotional charge in it, turned it into something which you are, it's not just a quality anymore.
Right.
It's not just an experience anymore.
Right.
Because experiences are of the moment, and qualities are, last year I wasn't the strongest person in the world, and next year I won't be either. But just this exact instant, I'm a winner now. I'm a winner just now,
The way I like to look at it is that if you've found this quality that you possess, I am strong, it's like having a tool in a toolbox. You're able to call upon this quality whenever you need it, just like a hammer. If you need a hammer.
I would even say, though, that you have it for a period of time, but then the hammer...
You put it in the toolbox.
Or you lose it. Or, you don't have it anymore. And I think this is the exact thing, is that the mind grabs onto something, says, this is me, and never wants to relinquish it. And then when it isn't you anymore, you can see it with people when they go into these midlife crises or anything. It's all regrets. It's all, I'm being attacked now because, I was the strongest, I was the bravest, I was the smartest, and I still am. I still am all those things. So I'm going to get all the creams and liquids and take the pills and the vitamins and do all the things because I still am all those things. And when it suddenly is revealed to them, it almost seems as though some revelation comes in that you're not anymore. There's a great deal of emotion, an outpouring of rage or sadness comes out because why? Mourning, because they feel, the person who this happens to feels a tremendous sense of loss, almost akin to death, because a piece of them that they said was alive and thought was alive and was true is suddenly proven to be false. It's like this giant, the tarot card, the tower with the lightning. It's like this giant lightning bolt has hit him and the tower is destroyed. And that's the ego thing, the tower that you built that you thought was you, the you that was being thought.
Well, the interesting thing is whenever you start building this I am this or I am that, You never factor in the change that happens. Because as far as you're concerned, you will never change.
Right. And isn't that a fertile ground? Because not only that, but if anyone tells you are changing, what do you mean?
Well, you've got whole billion-dollar industries built on not changing and being forever one way.
You have relationships. If you have a relationship that is built on the other and you never changing,
it will disintegrate.
It will disintegrate, but it will fly apart with great sadness, anger, rage, emotion, because you're not the person I thought you were. You hear that statement? You are not the person I thought you were. It's like, and if you sit back as a consciousness and observe that, you go, wow, how many people are in this conversation? There's a lot of people here.
How much fragmentation has occurred?
A lot. A lot of fragmentation, and that's what the mind can do.
It's interesting because that when you can perceive the amount of fragmentation that you have done to yourself, it should be jaw-dropping because you realize that I've torn myself to pieces. And I wonder why I feel this way.
Right. And in expanding your awareness into a spot where you can observe all these pieces, you can see that I've torn, that the thing that I was identifying is a bunch of odd fragments that argue with each other within this being, which is you. These fragments are at war with each other. They're hypersensitive. They're always on the lookout for attack or defense. They're forever lying to themselves about what they are, and then broadcasting to the consciousness, this is what I am, this is what I am, this is what I am, you're this, you're that, it can't be this, it has to be that, I'm always a winner, I'm always a loser, everything always bad happens to me. All this going on inside. And I think you in some of the things you were talking about earlier when we were talking, and it's thoughts that are coming in from where, you are, these things are almost as though they're being thought on you, the greater you, the consciousness you.
Well, if it is accepted by you to understand that first and foremost, you are not your thoughts. And you cannot control the thoughts that are rolling through your head.
That's a fertile ground, too. We should talk about that.
Because people think, oh, yes, of course I can do that. And I was like, you ever heard that phrase, you never had an original thought on your own? It's been thought of before. It's understanding that the mind consciousness is observing the thoughts that roll by. And they are constant and they are random. Most of the meditations that the Eastern cultures are presenting are trying, they say, still the thoughts. But they never really stop them. What happens is they arise and then they fall. But because you don't give it your attention, they naturally fall back.
Right.
And it is observing that kind of motion. The thought arises, you observe it, but do not focus in on it and engage in that whole thought line. You just observe it rise, and then it falls.
We should stay there for a moment, because I think this is another thing that people get caught up on, like the first sentence here. We'll say, of course I can control my thoughts. I think about what I want to think about. And it sounds right. It sounds right. But what you just said is much, much closer to the truth. The mind, unbidden, similarly like emotions, unbidden. A thought arises from this thing, this blob of protoplasm. It arises like an energy stimulus into your awareness.
It arises into your awareness, but it's not from your blob of protoplasm.
I agree. I'm just trying to say it arises. It comes from somewhere. But you didn't go seeking that thought. In fact, people always say, I was triggered by this and triggered by that. What does that mean exactly? What it means is that the energy of the thought, like a wave or like a ripple, rises up to a certain level where it intrudes. It looks for engagement. It actually looks for something that will pay attention to it. You hear, we all hear voices. We all hear voices. The voices that we hear sound like us. Or maybe they sound like somebody that you know very well, but they sound like us. And they come up into your awareness, looking for, as Margaret just said, you, the greater conscious you, to engage with them, to become entangled, to use a word from physics. A thought looks to entangle energy from consciousness. And the more it entangles, the stronger it gets. The
more thoughts start cascading through your mind.
Well, but I believe it also becomes more of an entity. It becomes a persistent wave. It becomes a whirl, an eddy, something which becomes a resonance, which can even fool you into thinking that you are nothing but this resonant chamber of thought, because with each engagement, it saps something from the consciousness. It saps the energy of the consciousness, and it turns it around and says, this is what you are, this is what you are, this is who you are, this is what,
It basically is alive in the field of your consciousness because you are powering it by giving it attention.
And it lives like, in some ways, a parasite. It craves
It
attention.
can only exist if you give it attention. In that field of your awareness, it can only exist if you give it your focused attention and engage.
And then people say, well, my thoughts aren't there all the time. They're not in awareness all the time, but it totally talks about entities, and I think this is a good way to think about it. Because a thought entity, a wholly formed, fully functional monster of thought can just rise up out of seemingly nowhere because it's been fed enough. It can go into a place where it isn't intruding into consciousness, but you trigger it, and the whole thing blows up and in essence shouts in your consciousness, this is the most important thing, we're being attacked, this is who you are, we have to do it. And you can go roaring off into actions, emotions, tremendous amounts of disruption, or tremendous amounts of just energy. Why? Because this thing was a fully formed monster entity that can rise up with the tiniest of triggers.
Well, it's a pattern that is within you.
Right. And even, some of the physical doctors will say that these things have physically changed a portion of your actual body. The mental part of your body has been physically changed by these energies, and they kind of like a big mousetrap, sit there and they get sprung and they're right in your mind. These are psychoses, neuroses, talk them as you will. But they have captured a tremendous amount of energy, and you can see it. You attack somebody's carefully constructed persona, and a monster arises out of almost nowhere.
Well, it's that trigger.
It's that trigger. You know what? Let's take a moment. Let's put the monsters away. Put our thoughts to the side for a moment. Take a moment. Go back to the studio, and we'll come back on the other side, and we'll talk more about how we're not our thoughts.
Moonstones and murder. Real murderers need a heart of stone. Meet Maggie and Mike Heartstone, parents of twin boys, entrepreneurs, and now empty nesters. Mike is retired, not by choice, from his position as chief of police in the picturesque resort town of Hamilton. And now his wife Maggie and her shop, the Cozy Crystal, are their only source of income, when a mysterious killing interrupts Hamilton's famous Springfield Park rock show. The townsfolk, the Cozy Crystal, and their lives are rocked to the core. Can Mike and Maggie figure out who is behind the murderous deeds before the town comes crashing down around them? A touch of romance, a little mayhem, and a whole lot of suspense, along with plenty of comedy and thrills galore. Get your crystal magnifying glass out. It's time for some Moonstones and murder. Available on Amazon, Apple, Kobo, and other fine e-tailers in ebook and paperback. Out soon on Audible. Get your copy today.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lynes is book 1 of the adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time. The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lynes, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief Dev is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Brag Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhummusic.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, C-Man, and I think that was a very good break. Today we're talking about, it's part 2 of You Are Not Your Thoughts, and the things that we've been bringing up, I think everyone is familiar with that. The voice in your head, the emotional charge when somebody contradicts your carefully cultivated persona. But Tolle and many, many, many others would say that you yourself, the path to a spiritual awakening is to realize, to come to the end of one of these ego entities and realize that this is not you. And then you have the who am I really?
Yes. Well, if you can accept the fact that, again, first, you are not your thoughts, and you are actually receiving thoughts. Because people say, I only want to think positive thinking. Well, if you actually controls that, this is who you actually were, you were positive thought, you would be able to do that, no problem. But what comes into your head? You're like, oh no, I should think positive. Well, that means that you had a negative thought coming in. And that's not who you are. But you understand what I'm saying. If you are actually this, then there is no way it could be altered or changed. So the thoughts come in, and I'd like to, to present an analogy, just like when you're listening on the radio to different stations, music stations, and you tune in to different shows or stations, music. This is what your mind actually is. It's a receiver. And when you say, I want a certain kind of music or a uplifting state, your positive thoughts kind of thing, you actually have to tune in to that frequency and then allow yourself to be filled with that higher frequency, not low thoughts, not depressing thoughts, not suffering or sorrow, but deciding that I am going to look for the light in this situation, opening your state to receive that joy. I am looking to joy in life.
And if you wouldn't mind, the analogy of the radio is perfect, because I think what you just said is that the thoughts, which are telling you that they're you, wouldn't allow you to turn the dial. In
Correct.
fact, the dial, they're saying that you are the radio station. You're the radio frequency. You're the thing that just came in. And you can't tune that. It just is what it is. It's just a thought. It's an energy field. The thing that can tune the actual entity, you, that can tune the dial, means that you, your consciousness, can decide outside of thought, outside of emotion, to observe the radio, the room, everything that is you, the spaciousness that is you, within which is the radio, from which comes thoughts. If you think of thoughts as, I've done this myself actually, it's a powerful analogy. If you're expanding your consciousness and then think of the thoughts as coming from a point somewhere within your consciousness, like a radio, and you literally can think of it and say, I'm going to turn the dial to the highest frequency I wish. And when you do it, the thoughts no longer control you. They don't create an entity within you. The consciousness just says, I don't like that thought. Oop, I'm going to tune to this. And those thoughts just go away.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, well, I can't get rid of the voice in my head. It just won't go away, won't go away, won't go away. And every no matter what I do, it comes up. And the Buddhists have this wonderful exercise of saying, well, here comes a thought like a marble. It rolls across the table and drops off. Well, here comes a thought on the radio. And if you don't like it, or if you just are tired of the radio, turn it off. If you want to tune to a higher frequency and bring in, make sure that this moment of now that these thoughts are trying to tell you is suffering, you just turn them to the frequency that you would like to hold. But the you that's holding the frequency is not the thought. The you that's holding the frequency, that's tuning the dial, is the true I am.
When you understand what you're doing, is your awareness is tuning in to a being state. A frequency is a being state. So if you're choosing to experience the aliveness of your moment right now, whatever's going on around you, the aliveness, that is a very high frequency, because you have to reside in consciousness to perceive what is alive around you. And when you do that, you're not thinking of all the bad things that had happened sometime in your past.
Right, or worrying about the future, for argument's sake.
Or worrying about some sort of future project. You are here in this moment of aliveness.
And this, don't stretch the analogy too far, but it's the absolute truth. The moment of aliveness, the moment of now, the highest frequency. Why? Because you're responding to your spirit self, to yourself, which is eternal. That frequency of creation.
And the thought lines that occur.
Or none, right? Or no thoughts at all.
Well, this is what I mean. You choose aliveness, and thoughts and emotions, just like waves in the ocean, wash over you. And you can observe that and process it accordingly.
Exactly.
But to abide in your awareness, your consciousness, and just see as it is now. Take it in and feel your relationship with that which is around you. And then you realize who you are. Because you are the consciousness that is experiencing that relationship and that flow. You are not the thought that happened to roll by.
Right. Or the radio. You're we use that analogy because everyone knows what a radio is. But it could be the phone, it could be the internet, it could be your computer, it could be all of these things which
whatever signal.
The signals that are coming in and the signals of the world will still be there. when you're in consciousness, it doesn't mean you can't think anymore. Of course you can think. You can think deeply. You can think much more completely. You can use thought as thought was meant to be used, as a tool, like Margaret was saying, like a hammer or a wrench or a computer, or something that you can use to bring things into this temporal existence. A great piece of art still needs a canvas that you have to put the paint on. But where does the inspiration, where does the art come from? It doesn't come from the paint and the canvas. The paint and the canvas is just things. It's just form.
It reminds me of what Mozart had said. He hears the music and he just writes it down.
Yes, and the description of genius like that is not. And then you say, "Well, I can do that too." You can, but not the way Mozart could, and not because you're not Mozart, or rather, not that he's a genius and you're not. No, the connection of spirit that he was bringing in and able to put into music, you might not have that particular talent, but the connection of spirit that you're bringing in can be your own genius, because your individual being is a different channel.
Your inspiration is different. You're an individual, unique being. So it's finding that.
Right.
People struggle with the I am box. I want to make my list of I am. But who you are is that point of intersection with this plane of existence, bringing in the divine, the infinite, the eternal into this moment. So it may be music, it may be an artwork or an art piece, painting,
a lovely meal, whatever you do.
Right, and then you can expand outward into any form of creativity. When you are truly participating in that, it is the feeling of time stopping, and the only thing that matters is the flow.
Isn't, that's something we should stop there for a moment. When you expand into consciousness and you connect up with spirit, and anything can come in, anything. It doesn't have to be something terribly special or notable. If it's done in that moment of now, it is special, it is notable, even if it's just to you.
Right. Well, the concept of being special and notable in man's mind.
It's the ego again, right?
It's the ego, but you have to go past all that and realize that the importance of being able to participate in that creative moment is the only thing that matters.
But and similarly, in the moment of now, you can do absolutely nothing but just be. Mm-hmm. And that is in and of itself
amazing.
Enough and amazing. Totally, we often refer to, says that, just in the moment of being, in that perfectly still, if you will, eternity, you can do, if you want to, if it's something that comes in and says, this must be done. In fact, in essence, you become the receiver of that which must be done. But just to be there and to be is complete and of itself. And in that moment, it is timeless. We've all of us at one point or another have experienced this timeless moment, and it's indescribable. This is where you have entered into that moment naturally, with the immediacy of now, and and that's what we're trying to get to be able to do it almost willfully, or at least habitually. But in that moment, you can see the radio or the TV or whatever the thoughts are coming in, and you can see where the emotions have come from. You can see all the entities and how false they are. And you accept them all. You say, yeah, that's all that. All those pieces are there. Sometimes they're useful. Sometimes they try to be obstructive. But to the extent that you pull away and give yourself the expansiveness and see them or become aware of them, you can then say, these broken pieces, I don't want to engage with them. Let them just kind of fade, like any form, any entity. This radio, okay, now I'd like to have a thought or two. I'll open that up and tune it to the frequency I wish, and I'll listen to the thoughts I wish to listen to. And then if I don't wish to, turn it right off. You are now able to operate in that mode of seeing yourself and being yourself. And then if somebody tries to come and tell you who you are, you go, no. Thanks very much, but no, that's not who I am, because you have no idea who I am. The one you may have a relationship with, you have that relationship between the two of you, but it's not something which you identify them and they can never change, and they identify you and you can never change. No, you change together. Your beings are intertwined at a level. You exchange energies, and you accept that you are a being, they are a being, and our beings are together for some period of time.
Thoughts do not know you. All right, I want to bring that up. They are just thoughts that pass through. Just like emotions do not know you.
You need to expand on that, but I know, I like where you're going.
The emotions rise up and move through, and you have to do the same with your thoughts. When I say know you, you're basically giving it an identity.
Right.
But that's not what they are. They're not separate.
Right. It's exactly right. Let's turn it a little bit around. I know you. My being knows your being. My complete being knows your being, a piece of your being, and you know me. But my thoughts know nothing.
Right.
Because a being can encompass knowledge. A thought is just an energy sprite.
Right. It's a pattern or a construct that arises and then falls.
Yes.
Just as your emotions arise and fall.
But thoughts like to try and tell us that they know things.
Well, they come into existence by you giving your attention to it, which is pretty much allowing them to exist on your field of operation or consciousness. Now they're alive.
And now they can pretend to know things.
Right, they can pretend to... They'll tell you stories just so that they can maintain center stage.
Right. Right.
So to be aware of that is really amazing.
I mean, to use that same analogy, when your thoughts, if you're in this state where your thoughts are telling you who you think you are, when they arise, they bring a whole story, as you just said. They bring all their knowledge. They say, "Oh, we know this. We know what's happening over there. We know what they're saying. We know what this one thinks of us. We know." They're so sure of themselves. They have all this knowledge, and yet none of it is based on reality. It's literally based on other thoughts informing thoughts, spirals within spirals, and these eddies of energy.
So, it gives a whole different angle to what Shakespeare said, that all the world is a stage.
Yes.
and the men and women are merely players.
Yes.
Understanding that the story on the stage is the stage of your mind, and you are the observer.
Right, you're the audience in some regards, but in it's even worse than that, because the thoughts are trying to substitute. It's that stupid saying, "I reject your reality and substitute my own." That's what thoughts are trying to do to you all the time. They're rejecting the actual reality, the moment of now, the actual experience of what's actually happening. When the thought arises and tells you, "I know exactly what Bill's thinking about you," and if you were an observer, a consciousness, you say, "Is that so?" The thought is trying to tell you that without any particular contact with any other entity or being, completely within itself, it knows exactly. It's like that show we watch. I know exactly what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is the vanity, the self-referential vanity of thought. Thought thinks that thought is everything.
Well, for it to exist, you have to buy into it.
You have to buy in, and that's maybe the best point of all, is that thought requires the consciousness to both listen and agree, and you can feel it in yourself. You realize that when your thoughts arise, they're looking for agreement, and they do not wish to have any argument. They want immediate, instantaneous agreement and energy from you. They want to be fed. Want to be fed. Come on. Let's go.
Right. Well, it's, again, when computers were there, started up, we had those wonderful things called hijackers.
Well,
that took your screen and brought it to some place. But I believe we have reached the end of our
You think
hour.
You think this is the end? You're right. And I think I'm Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret. And thank you for listening.